Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our February Heritage Kitchener meeting. For those of you who are watching, if you're interested in being a delegation for future meetings, there is a form online, www.kitchener.ca/delegation. Or you can also email at delegation@kitchener.ca. And now I'd like to know if there is any member of the committee who needs to declare a pecuniary interest regarding of matters that are listed on the agenda. Seeing none, thank you. And now for our delegations. Just to remind those who are delegating, the city values and encourages participation, dialogue in a democratic process that occurs in council and committee meetings and through written submissions and correspondence. It's important that these interactions remain respectful towards other members of the public, staff, committee members. In cases where dialogue is not respectful or delegates interrupt committee members, staff, or other delegations, make derogatory statements about committee members, staff, others that are disrespectful, or uses hate speech or language that is considered harmful or defamatory, the chair may interject and take necessary actions to maintain a respectful and inclusive environment for everyone, which could involve being removed from the meeting. And so now we'll go to our discussion items. 4.1, which is the draft heritage impact assessment at 63 Cortland Avenue East. Michelle Drake, Senior Heritage Planner, will provide a 5-minute presentation. And then we do have delegations here, Andrea Sinclair and Vanessa Hicks from MHBC. So, and this item is for information. No motion will be required at this time. And I have to remind everyone, even though you think you're speaking clearly, make sure you talk into the mic so that everyone can hear everyone from committee members to the audience. Thank you. All right, Michelle.
Through the chair, I just want to confirm if you wanted to start with 4.1 or 4.2. 4.1 is the heritage permit, and I know that will be the first slide that will come up as in our PowerPoint presentation.
Sure, if you're ready to do so. We don't have any delegations here on this one. No, seeing none. All right. Victoria and Victoria Groon, Heritage Planner, and Michelle Drake, Senior Heritage Planner, will provide the 5-minute presentation. So please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Heritage planning staff are in receipt of a heritage permit application for the demolition of an existing detached garage and the construction of a new detached garage on the property municipally addressed as 41 Michael Street. This property is located within the Victoria Park Area Heritage Conservation District and designated under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act. The existing detached garage is located towards the rear of the property and is partially visible from the public right-of-way. The detached garage is not original to the dwelling and it has been modified over time. The applicant has advised staff that the existing garage is not in a condition conducive to parking a vehicle, which is why the applicant is looking to construct a new garage on the property. The proposed detached garage is similar in size to the existing detached garage and will take up a similar footprint on the lot. The new garage is proposed to be 1 story in height with a dormer to complement the dormer that exists on the dwelling. The new garage is proposed to be clad in hardy board vertical siding in a color to complement the existing dwelling. And this is a product that has been approved for use on additions and other accessory structures within the Victoria Park Heritage Conservation District. This application is before the Heritage Kitchener Committee this evening. Given that the size of the garage being removed and the size of the new garage are greater than what is permitted to be processed by staff under the new Delegated Approval Authority bylaw. Given that the demolition of the existing detached garage will not detract from the heritage value of the property, the Michael Street streetscape, or the district as a whole, and that the proposed garage complies with the policies and guidelines of the district plan and is compatible with the existing dwelling on the property, staff recommend that the heritage permit application be approved, subject to the following condition, that the final building permit drawings be reviewed and heritage clearance provided. That concludes my presentation on this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Are there any questions for staff from our committee? Yes, Magda.
Thank you. So just a brief minor comment that on drawing sheet A6, the roof material is indicated as gray or black shingles to match the house. But the house shingles look different. So this is just a maybe point to clarify. Thanks.
Are there any comments about that remark?
I can advise that to the applicant and ensure that on the final building permit drawings that distinction is clear, that the proposed shingles are to match what's existing on the dwelling.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Councillor Chapman.
Yeah, thank you. I just noticed you say that the footprint of the proposed garage is similar to the current garage. What's the difference? Like, I didn't see anywhere in the report what the actual current garage was.
Through the chair, the existing footprint of the existing garage is 34.8 meters squared, and the garage that's proposed is 34.5 meters squared. So it's essentially the same size as what's there now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, we have a motion then before us. Resolved that pursuant to Section 42 of the Ontario Heritage Act, Heritage Permit Application HBA 2026 V-001 to permit the demolition of a detached garage and the construction of a detached garage at the property municipally addressed as 41 Michael Street be approved in accordance with the supplementary information submitted with this application and subject to the following condition. 1, that final building permit drawings be reviewed to the permit. So, who will move this motion? Thank you, Laura. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? It is carried and it is approved. So this will go to council for approval on March the 2nd, 2026. So staff, can we go back to 4.1, at least on my agenda, 63 Cortland?
Through the chair, yes.
Go ahead.
So Heritage Planning staff are seeking feedback from the committee this evening regarding the updated Heritage Impact Assessment for 63 Cortland Avenue East. This current proposal includes proposed alterations to the existing built heritage resource, as well as the proposed new construction to occur on site. The property is listed as a non-designated property of cultural heritage value or interest on our municipal heritage register, and is also located in the Cedar Hill and Schneider Creek cultural heritage landscape. It should be noted that this committee did previously see an earlier version of the draft heritage impact assessment back in April of 2025. At that time, the assessment focused on the proposed demolitions. So that information is still contained in the assessment, but the new information relates to the alterations and the new construction. So the focus will be on the focus that we are seeking input on this evening is on the proposed alterations and the proposed new construction on the property. Heritage planning staff have no major concerns, but we have identified a few design considerations that will require further review through our staff process. That includes the proposed dark gray fiber cement cladding that's proposed on the front facade of the existing building, the visual link between the existing built heritage resource and the proposed new development, particularly in terms of materials and colors, and then the proposed garages on the townhouses that face Martin Street. I also included, for the benefit of the committee, a photo of the site plan that is found within the Heritage Impact Assessment. There were some questions around what would be the orientation of the proposed new townhouses. So you can see that there are 2 new townhouse blocks at the top with the original building in between, and they face Cortland Avenue East, while there are additional townhouse blocks to the south that face Martin Street, with one block being sort of internal to the site. And then I had also been asked about the proposed elevations. So these were also provided in the Heritage Impact Assessment, and it shows the proposed elevations that have currently been submitted as part of the site plan application review process. With that, I do know that the applicant and their consultants are here this evening. I am available for questions. I believe they have a brief presentation and are also available for questions. And just as a reminder to the committee, we're looking for feedback that you would like staff to consider as we process this Planning Act application.
Thank you, Michelle. And now I would invite Andrew Sinclair and Vanessa Hicks to come forward. And I'd like to remind you again, please speak into the mic.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of committee. I'm Andrea Sinclair with MHBC Planning. I will not be doing the presentation. That will be Vanessa, but I did just want to quickly let the committee know I'm here if there's any sort of questions more related to the planning side, and wanted to also let the committee know that we have Cecilia from Cantiro here if there's any questions specific of the developer, and also wanted to introduce a special guest tonight. I do have a planning master's student here who probably doesn't want to be called out, but he's here just monitoring this process and learning from what happens when you go to a committee meeting. So I'll sit back down and hand it over to Vanessa, but if there are questions outside of the typical heritage type of questions, we're all available. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea, and good afternoon. Again, my name is Vanessa Hicks, and I'm a heritage planner with MHBC. Nice to see you all again. I came back to you, I was here about a year ago in April of last year to introduce this to you. And if you click on the next slide, we'll go through our presentation and build upon a little bit about what, oh, thank you, what Michelle has already informed you of. And so the last time we came before you, we were considering a concept and looked for your input into a concept for a site that currently includes 3 buildings. And we're looking to gain your feedback on the proposal concept As understanding that the heritage impact assessment identified, of course, that the various buildings on site, some of which have cultural heritage value and others do not. The April meeting, we came before you with a proposal to retain a portion of the building fronting Cortlandt Street, considering potential concepts, including the concept to the right at that time. And following your comments and information received at that time, we've since revised the proposal to incorporate considerable additional portions of the building. So you can see the visual on the left, which notes in green the portion that we're proposing to retain and conserve, and also the photograph there that demonstrates the difference between the first and the current concept, where we're looking to retain the building. So within the current concept, all of the identified heritage attributes of the site will be retained and conserved, associated with the sections of the building. So here again is that portion of the heritage building, now of course 2 stories, but that's the building that the red arrow is noting on the site plan. And again, here is the current proposal, noting the Cortlandt elevation as well as the Martin Street elevation. I would like to note that the architects took a lot of time and consideration to draft a design for the new buildings that would respond to, I think, 2 main pieces of information. One is what is existing in the context already along Cortlandt and Martin. You can see that the existing architecture for the 19th and early 20th centuries very much includes those simple gables and plans, and they're also responding to the City of Kitchener urban design guidelines, which very much strongly encourages new and compatible materials, new materials which are clearly distinguishable from authentic heritage fabric. So these 2 pieces of information in combination have resulted in what I think is a very successful blend of old and new for the proposal. And here, these are elevations of the building, front of elevation, north, rear, and as well as the south elevation. Because the rear wall of the portion of the building that's going to be retained would be removed, it needs to be reconstructed, and we would be reconstructing it with the existing roof shape and size and pattern, and replicating the existing window shapes and sizes and rhythms along that rear facade. Is that the 5? I can't see a timer. That's 5 minutes. Okay, I'll only take 1 more minute. The illustration page here just helps to illustrate in real time the sort of color palette and materials that was drawn upon. So on the left you have, a dark color palette juxtaposed with authentic heritage brick, and on the right these materials are those the cement panels. So we wanted to illustrate to you that it's not any type of cheap or low quality architectural materials, but there is a lot of thought process that went into that. So in conclusion, we have received your comments and would like to thank you for them. We also note that we received information in email from some of you regarding the construction dates and newspaper articles. Happy to address those, and thank you for that information. Also note that all heritage attributes are going to be retained, and the proposed removals do not result in adverse impacts, and that there's no impacts to the surrounding context, including the cultural heritage landscape. The only potential for adverse impacts is, of course, related to vibration and construction activities, which is very much a reality for any project. And we're working with staff to submit all of the standard documents from structural engineers to make sure that any potential adverse impacts are avoided. So in conclusion, we're looking for your feedback and also for your support on this story and this adaptive reuse of this building. And we're looking to get your feedback today, but also come back to you next month in March. Given that it's a listed property, we're looking for some demolitions. We're going to need some official feedback from you to provide to council. We're also working with staff on conditional site plan approval and working through those conditions So there will be conditions through that planning application process related to ensuring that the building is conserved appropriately and that we're providing documentation and salvage reports and anything else that staff requires to make sure that the end product happens smoothly and effectively without adverse impacts to that heritage resource. And we're also talking to staff about future designation as well. So thank you so much. Thank you for letting me go over a little bit, and happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Vanessa. So we have perhaps questions for the delegation. Councillor Chapman.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I just wondered about the access onto Martin Street. Will there be access from Martin Street right into the center of the development, or just to the townhouses that are facing Martin?
This has been a issue of contention. So it was the city's preference that the main access be to Cortland. There was, and you may recall, Councillor Chapman, in the previous secondary plan, there was always a restriction of having a main driveway entrance onto Martin Street. The region was pushing to have all vehicle access to Martin Street. They have recently agreed Cortland will be the main access, so there's just those couple of townhouse units that have their own garages and driveways similar to the existing condition on Martin Street. Right now it's just 3 units. That will be the only vehicular access to Martin. The majority will all go to Cortland, and that has been now accepted by the region, thankfully.
Okay, thank you. The other question I had to do with setbacks on the sides.
Sorry, can you?
Yeah, on the sides of the townhouses themselves, and the ones facing Martin Street, I'm mostly interested in knowing about. The setbacks from the adjacent property is like 1.5 meters, is that correct?
So there may be one setback that may require a variance in terms of the side yard. It's a bit, the way the zoning bylaw is written right now, you could have a taller building closer to the property line than the shorter townhouse. It's a bit of a funny regulation, so we're just working through that with staff, but we do anticipate there may be the need for one setback from a side property line, but it's fairly minor in terms of the relief that would be requested.
Okay, and have you spoken to the residents on either side of the property? Like, I know you've been in touch with some of the residents, but have you been in touch with the ones that are directly adjacent to the townhouses on Martin?
Have we been in touch with those residents? Yeah. So we've generally, Cantero has been keeping the neighborhood group informed. At the time that application is submitted, we haven't submitted any variance applications. We're still working through the final site plan details, but at the appropriate time, they will be circulated, and we're absolutely willing to reach out in advance just to let them know what's happening. But we're also looking at how we can minimize as much as possible any relief that we need from the zoning.
Okay, and I realize these questions aren't specific to heritage, but it's all part of the same site, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman. Any other question? Yes, Grant.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you for your presentation, Vanessa. I think I recall correctly that when this was before the committee last time, you guys were looking for the partial demolition of the building, which was quite significant at that time, just maintaining the facade. You were going to move forward with that demolition prior to site plan approval. Is that still the intention?
I'm sorry, I think there's a little bit of an echo, but I think what you're asking, is there an intention to demolish now prior to site plan approval?
Yeah. I mean, there's a number of buildings on the site. Right? And some are going to be removed entirely, and the one that you're maintaining it'll be about half removed, right? And so I'm just wondering if the intention is to start the demolition of that building, half of that building, before site plan approval.
So you're correct. When we came previously, we were at that time looking to potentially do the demo before even applying for site plan approval. We ended up getting to the point where we were ready basically to make a site plan submission. So we went through the more regular process that this committee is used to. So the site plan application has been submitted. We're very close to conditional approval, but we are going to be coming back to this committee likely in March with the partial demolition. And the reason for that and why we're doing it for that portion that is coming down prior to final site plan approval is there is contamination on the site. That contamination is almost completely underneath the building to be removed. And in order to do the necessary site cleanup, the building needs to come down. And as this committee can appreciate, it can take a long time to work through that record of site condition process. So that's the main reason we don't want to wait until right before building permit, because then we still have to go through all the site cleanup. So that will be coming back to this committee likely in March.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Just general comments. I would say in general, I'm much more keen on this iteration. I think the scale is a little bit better. Certainly in the interface with the heritage building, I wasn't super keen on the proposed facadism for the last version. I also think it will contribute to a greater diversity in the neighborhood with the apartment building next door that I think is being advanced by the same proponent. So I'm really pleased to see that. The only comment to staff would just be, again, I think it would be good to ensure that the building, the heritage building isn't demolished until site plan approval is achieved, at least conditionally. Thank you.
Thank you, Grant. Any other comments? Magda?
Thank you. I had just a couple questions about the portion of the historic building that is proposed to be retained. I believe the brick on that portion is currently painted, and the proposed elevations in the report appear to show exposed bricks. So will that be restored? And then sort of on the same theme, on the east facade, there appear to be lintels and sills where there were window openings, and those windows are proposed to be put back, but I don't believe that there were lintels and sills shown on the elevation. So I just wanted to get a little bit of clarity about some of the, how the conservation piece is anticipated to go forward. Thanks.
Thank you. And through the chair, I'll answer those first two questions. And the first one related to painted bricks. And it's true that the existing building all those buildings are currently painted. And the plan is a little bit contingent on the condition of the bricks. So I think the intent is to remove the paint as safely as possible and to do testing on the bricks to make sure that it can be removed safely. And if it can be removed safely, to expose the brick in its former glory. However, if there are issues, then we would work through that process. And it may be the case that it may need to be repainted or the paint needs to stay, but that is a little bit contingent on the condition of the brick. And that kind of information we're working on with staff through the submission of a conservation plan. Oh, the second question, thank you. So in terms of the sills on the windows, all of the existing sills that are stone that can be retained are proposed to be retained. They're not proposing to remove any, but there does need to be some reconstruction of some openings. And I think the intent would be to include sills and to ensure that there's a more cohesive window opening that would speak to the rest of the building, but all of the existing heritage attributes that are original would be retained and conserved. Thank you.
Thank you, Magda. Seth? Any other questions? Yes, now.
I just had a follow-up question regarding the contamination that was mentioned earlier. So I understand it was mentioned that it was mostly underground. Is there any sort of threat to the stability of the existing building with that decontamination? I can't say that word, I apologize. And will there be significant impact on the existing building in terms of dust or anything like that?
Thank you. And to my knowledge, no, there is no risk to the existing building, the portion that's being conserved. There's no contamination. Contamination is only related and underneath building 2, and that is proposed to be mitigated and removed so that the site is safe for residential use. And to the second part of your question, there will be submission of a very comprehensive conservation plan to make sure that there's adequate fencing and any openings are boarded up and mothballed, and that's a very standard and required component when construction activities always pose a potential risk. So we're working through those with staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. Any other question? Yes, Peter.
Just a quick comment. I wanted to say how good it is to see the improvements in this scheme from the last one, and I think that there's a lot to like here, and so some of the things that I think are really good is that how the new buildings that are being proposed for the site relating to the existing building, that they take their cues from the existing building in the scale and in the size, and that all of the buildings sort of being of the sort of same height and the same kind of massing makes a really coherent plan. That's very nice, and the heritage building sort of placed central is really good. I like that the heritage building is treated not as as a foreground building, right? It's a really nice piece of fabric, right? It's great, and the strategy of moving the parking to the inside of the site and pushing the buildings out to the street to make that consistent street line with the rest of the neighborhood, again, is really good work. I like how the new buildings are different than the existing building, and that they are their own language that's separate from. They have a different roof line, they have a different limit, they have a different fenestration, but that they are of complementary size and scale to the heritage building. I think makes the whole thing work, and that the amount of density that's being brought to the site, I think it's close to 80 units in all. I think that's really commendable. I think it's an excellent fit for the neighborhood, and I think it's good work and deserves commendation.
Thank you, Peter. Any other comments? Yes, Laura.
Hi, just wondering, given the historical significance of the property, I just wondered if at some point there might be some plans to put interpretive signage or something where it could bring out more awareness to the public of its historical value.
Through the chair, thank you. That is an excellent question. And Canterio is very excited and very appreciative of the site's history. I think that the goal here is to really leverage the history of the site, and there will definitely be opportunities for interpretation, absolutely due for this particular resource. And we are also working with staff on a very comprehensive conservation plan, as well as commemoration, to make sure that people that walk by the street don't just see beautiful heritage fabric, they understand that important story that goes along with it. So absolutely valid, and will work with staff on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Any other comments? Questions? Yes.
I have just one comment. I just wanted to echo some of what was said from the rest of the committee, particularly Peter's comments, that I think this is a very commendable design that has responded to a lot of the feedback received in the last round. The parking at the interior, the scale, form, massing, all of that, it's really nice. So kudos to that. So that's my comment for the delegation, and then a comment for staff moving forward. many of the concerns about the design have been addressed in the new proposal, which is great. But recalling the discussion we had last time this came around, and a number of those other concerns about what's going to happen when the building is partially demolished, what's going to happen with commemoration, salvage plan, appropriate mothballing, vibration controls, a lot of that, while noted in the revised HIA, have also been deferred down the road for future reporting. So I think the updated recommendations of the HIA are great, and that all of those things have been addressed in some way, but not conclusively. So my comment is just keeping abreast of those issues, because while some of the things we've raised have been addressed already, a lot of them are down the road, and so just making sure that we have that continuity as this project advances. Thank you.
Thank you, Preston. Any other questions? Although I've heard comments about the roof line for the new building, I had second thoughts about the style of the roof line for the new buildings, and I wondered why you took the lead, or your architect took the lead from the house roof lines around the area rather than the building that will be remain. Do you have any comments on that?
Through the chair, and I think that it's a common misconception that compatible must mean same as. And compatible means that you are using designs that are clearly distinguishable from the heritage resource, but can draw from the body of work that is 19th and early 20th century buildings, which we do have a range of in the context. And the Cultural Heritage Landscape Study does say specifically that the importance and the value of that particular cultural heritage landscape is in its variety. So it makes sense that it would draw upon what is within that context, and they chose the simplistic designs to not compete or contrast or take away from that existing building. And I think that's a very successful way of complementing the site.
Thank you. Are there any other last comments? Seeing none. Thank you, Vanessa. And now we'll go to staff, directions for staff. Magda, do you have, you had some comments that you asked the delegation. I wonder if you wanted to repeat it for our staff.
The comments about the conservation of the historic building.
And the brick color and so on.
Yeah, I mean, I was just wondering about that because the elevations that we saw in the report suggest exposed brick, and I think Vanessa answered the question well, that it makes sense that if it can be safely exposed, then that makes a lot of sense, and I think would add to the value of the building. But if it can't, then obviously we don't want to destroy the building doing that. And then the lintels, yeah, I think that's possibly just a product of like drawings being in a more preliminary state, but yeah, just to ensure that all those existing elements as far as possible are well conserved as part of the project. Thanks.
Thank you, Magda. I think it is the committee's concern when a building will be partially demolished and there is extra activity in the area and on site. Staff, do you have any comments as to how you will go about ensuring or writing up the proposal to keep it all together so that we can be absolutely sure that what is left standing remains standing? and I don't know whether Michelle or Victoria want to answer this.
Through the chair, I can respond to your comments as well as a combination of Magda and Preston's comments as well. So typically we bring heritage impact assessments to the committee for your feedback as part of a broader planning process. So in this case, it's the site plan approval process. As part of that process, we typically require a number of conditions to be met at various stages of development. So sometimes that's before grading, sometimes it's before servicing, sometimes it's before final approval is granted for the site plan. And then some of those conditions are also entrenched in legal agreements. So typically these types of studies that I think you're referencing are dealt with as part of the planning process. So the applicant is aware and I think has completed some of the work already on things like the conservation plan, the commemoration and salvage plan, the temporary protection plan, and so forth. And those all look at questions of, how can the partial demolition occur without compromising the structural stability of the building? What will be done with the building when the partial demo is complete until such time as the building itself is rehabilitated, as well as things like monitoring of vibration on site during the demolition and also during adjacent development and so forth. So those are technical details that are reviewed by staff as we work through the process. I believe one of the delegates mentioned that they are intending to come back to this committee with their notice of intention to demolish so that they can start to initiate those processes. And so they have, I think just today, so I haven't looked at it other than I saw the email in my inbox, submitted that request along with the required studies for staff to review and then to bring a report back to this committee with our recommendations. I'm confident we've taken this approach with other buildings, and obviously there's always risk when we're dealing with partial demo and even just generally construction equipment on a site. But we, work as best as possible to put measures in place to ensure that we don't have, something that compromises the integrity of the buildings that are supposed to be retained or the buildings that are partially supposed to be retained.
Thank you, Michelle. That's good. One other item you did mention about commemoration, and I know this is a long way down the in the plan, I did not see this in the background information about the recognition of Silverwood's Dairy that was on the site for many, many years, and I do feel that it is very important to, as far as the industrial history of this city goes, and I would really like to make sure that Silverwoods in some way be recognized. Granted, it wasn't the head office. Granted, it wasn't a big and famous company like Schneider's, but it did supply milk to many, I would say thousands of Kitchener residents. And there are those who did come forward after our last discussion about, don't you remember the carriage or the truck or the wagon that was brought around door to door, the horse-drawn wagon with the bottles, and there's a bottle that remains out at Doon or the Waterloo Regional Museum. And so I wouldn't like to see that part of our industrial history lost. Granted, it's not part of the buildings, but what happened on that site. So I just want to have that recognized for future. Are there any other comments? Thank you very much for coming in and your new plan. Going on then to notice of intention to designate, this is 1254 Union Street, And staff have requested that this item be deferred to the next Heritage Kitchener meeting, which is March. I would like Victoria to give an overview of the information.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If we could just get the slide up just to show the image of the property. Thank you. So the property municipally addressed as 1254 Union Street is currently listed on our municipal heritage register and was flagged by heritage staff through the site plan process as a property to conserve through designation. The notice of intention to designate was coming forward as a result of staff's review of the heritage impact assessment that was submitted as part of the site plan application. And through the review of the heritage impact assessment, staff concluded that the property meets criteria for designation. Through the site plan process, staff had advised that designation would be pursued following the completion of the works on site. However, the property owner and their heritage consultants were not provided opportunity to review and comment on the updated statement of significance prior to the publishing of the Heritage Kitchener agenda. So through our typical Heritage Register review process, owners are contacted with a letter, and they're provided a copy of the statement of significance. But since this property was subject to a site plan process, that communication process was missed. And so in order to give the property owner the same opportunity to review and comment on the statement of significance as other property owners have been afforded through the Municipal Heritage Register review process, staff is requesting that the item be deferred for one cycle so that we can continue to have dialogue with the property owner and their heritage consultant regarding the contents of the statement of significance. So if this motion for deferral is passed, then the item will come before the committee at the March meeting. And I've drafted a motion that's up on the screen for the committee to consider. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Are there any questions for Victoria? Seeing none, could we then have a motion to defer this item to the March meeting? Grant will do that. All those any questions? All those in favor? Carried. So it will be brought forward March then. Thank you. We now have the Municipal Heritage Register Review update for February, and Michelle Drake, our Senior Heritage Planner, will provide a presentation.
Through the chair. So this evening we have a short list compared to some months. We have two properties that we are presenting to the committee for consideration to move forward in the formal process. So the first property is 20 Linden Avenue. This property is a two-story late 19th century brick house that's built in the Ontario Gothic architectural style. It's situated on a 0.08 acre parcel of land that's located on the northwest corner of Linden Avenue and Oak Street, which is located in the Warehouse District Cultural Heritage Landscape and is also located directly adjacent to the Victoria Park Area Heritage Conservation District. So the principal resource that we're looking at on this property is the single detached dwelling. In terms of criteria, the property has design and physical value as a representative example of the Ontario Gothic architectural style. It features many intact heritage attributes, including the two-story height, the gabled roof lines, the tongue and groove soffits with plain frieze, the plan shape, the yellow brick, including brick coining and voussoirs, and the front door opening and storm door with their brick voussoirs, wood sills and wood trim, There are also arched windows and arched window openings with brick facades, wood sills, and trims. And there are also a front porch with columns, balustrade, and brackets. In terms of associative and historical value, I did not find any clear direct links, although there are some beliefs that there is a link with an Adam Denges, who was a carpenter and who may have also had connections with the Lang Tannery, but I was not able to 100% substantiate that information, so I have included it in the evaluation form, but for now, I'm not recommending that it meets one of those criteria related to historical associative value. And so then the last values that it meets is the contextual values relating to the continuity that that particular building provides to the two streetscapes, as well as to the connection with the warehouse district and the connection with the Victoria Park Area Heritage Conservation District. Through the chair, would you like me to present the next one as well?
I think we should do this one at a time. Thanks. All right. Are there any questions with respect to 20 Linden? Seeing none, are we in favor of pursuant to Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act, cultural heritage value or interest be recognized and designation be pursued for 20 Linden Avenue? Who will move that? Laura will. Any questions? All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, we'll go to 305 King Street West.
And through the chair, I just want to confirm that that was a recommendation regarding the City of Kitchener's informal process. So now staff will take that advice back and we will prepare information packages for the property owners to invite them to participate in the process before we then write a notice of intention to designate that comes back to the committee and then council. Okay, so the next property is 305 King Street West. So this particular building is a 20th century building built in the international architectural style. The building is situated on a 0.48 acre parcel of land that is located on the south side of King Street West between Francis Street and Water Street in the City of Kitchener and within the region. The principal resource that contributes to the heritage value is the commercial building, as well as the sort of quasi semi-private, semi-public open space at the front of the building that I'll talk to later on. So with respect to design value, I mentioned the international style. So this is an early example of a commercial office building. At the time, it was described as the city's first skyscraper and was once the tallest building in Kitchener and is a representative example of the style. The building is in good condition with many intact original elements. The building features a flat roof, a square plan, 12 stories, 4 nearly identical elevations with little to no ornamentation, simple geometric lines created through the use of materials, and a 2-story podium base that's surrounded by a semi-public plaza with concrete planters. The building demonstrates a high degree of technical achievement with its use of the floor-to-ceiling float glass exterior walls that at the time were innovative. The property also has direct associations with the theme of banking and the well-known institutions of the Waterloo Trust and Savings Company, which was later purchased by Canada Trust, which later merged with TD Canada Trust. The building also demonstrates the work of an architect, Boris Zarafa, And Boris is quoted as having led one of Canada's most prolific architectural practices between 1951 and 2000, and credited with designing more than 200 buildings between 1961 and 1998. The contextual values relate to the building's physical, functional, and visual link to King Street and downtown Kitchener. The building is located at the corner of King and Water. It has been described as creating a prismatic profile on the Kitchener skyline, with the front elevation being set back from King Street to provide for the public sidewalk and the semi-public plaza space. So that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Michelle. Are there any questions for Michelle? Magda, please.
Thank you. I was wondering about the materials of the building. It seemed to me like the list of heritage attributes didn't actually include any of the materials currently on the building, if that makes sense. It was sort of phrased like materials like glass, something like that. Would you be able to speak to that? Because I think I sort of understand why it's that way, but maybe you could speak to the, you know, for example, if this building was designated and in future the owner wanted, say, to replace the windows or the glass, how the designation is phrased, how it would affect that type of a project.
Through the chair, so I can definitely review the language, and my preference would be to reference the materials as they exist today, if they are in fact a heritage attribute. So if there's a little bit of maybe vagueness in how I've written it, I'll go back and take a look at that. But my preference would be that, you know, that plate glass, that sort of floor to ceiling, is critical to the architecture of the building. And so I wouldn't want to see some sort of alteration in the future that would remove that heritage attribute by somehow changing the style of the glass in terms of like size, dimensions, mullions, those sorts of things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and maybe I was just also reading too deeply into it. It's not an issue, but it sort of caught my attention, so I was just curious about that. And then this just came to me when you were reviewing the criteria that were met by this property. And I was wondering if you could maybe clarify the criterion about the work of an architect, artist, etc., because it says who is significant to the community. So would that affect kind of the I mean, I'm not disputing that Boris Zarafa was a significant architect, but was he significant to this community? And does that distinction matter in the criteria?
Through the chair, I believe that the criteria doesn't refer to any specific community. It refers to a community. So the way I typically apply that is to understand, you know, what community it's important to. And sometimes it might be a neighborhood. Sometimes it might be a cultural group. Sometimes it might be a larger body like a city or a region or beyond. And so I think from when I looked at it in this scenario, I was looking at it as these accolades about the work that he had done and the influence that he had on design and architecture as the community, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Magda. Any other questions for staff? Seeing none, then we, pursuant to Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act, cultural heritage value or interest be recognized and designation be pursued for 305 King Street West, and the same procedure as we have for 20 Linden Avenue. All right, who would move this, please? Natalie, would you? Thank you. Any further questions on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried unanimously. And so this then will go to council for approval March 2nd, 2026. Okay, thank you. All right, then information items, heritage permit applications tracking sheet. Any other comments? Are there any other questions that you have for staff? Announcements? Yes, Grant?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just at the end there, you said that 305 King was going to come back here. Is that the process? It'll go to council, rather, is what you said. Does it go to Heritage Kitchener before it would go to council, right? These are just kind of preliminary votes on whether to pursue. Is that correct?
Yes, Grant, I think you're understanding it correct. So this recommendation of the committee will go to council, but it's not a formal procedure under the Heritage Act. It's an informal process that we've created to allow more opportunity to dialogue with owners. So then we will contact the owners, provide that opportunity to participate in the process, and then bring forward a notice of intention to designate formally under the Heritage Act at a future meeting.
Any other questions? Seeing none, who would like to move to adjourn the meeting? Natalie would. Thank you very much. See you in March.